I've also worked on those, the ferry boats. Over there, you can't see it. I've helped build them. I've been on them or whatever. Um, so, anyways, yeah, this is basically a video about Seattle again, and how do you know it's not because of the ferry boat or the Space Needle or anything like that. The rain. See that? See the rain and that clouds. That's how you know, because everything else, just like the movies, they say they're filmed in Seattle and they're not, and that has to do with the film office, and that's a totally different story, and that was years ago, so I don't need to bring it up. And so where am I going? I guess basically tips in Seattle would be don't drive between 10 and 2. I mean, drive between 10 and 2, and don't drive any other hours unless they're super duper early in the morning, like 5 a.m. or after like 8 p.m. now or 6. It depends on the accident. Also, the traffic. Like, the traffic is probably worse than LA. I've lived in LA. It's becoming worse in LA. And what happened was, when people first started moving here, they didn't know all the back streets and the side streets and all that stuff, and they didn't have that application on the smartphone now that tells you which route is best to take. They didn't have all that stuff, so I knew from living here so long that I knew which roads to take. But eventually, in rush hour traffic, they figured it all out. So it's become a big mess. Too many people are moving in and will continue to move in. And I don't blame the people. I can't blame somebody, I'd love to, for wanting to live in a better place or seeking work in a better place or country. I can't really point fingers on that one. What I can point fingers at, like I said in the other video, is I lived in Tokyo. I lived in Tokyo, Japan. And so I lived there for 10 years, and I came back, total shock and all that. And living in Tokyo, Japan, I was working full-time and part-time. When I was working full-time, my transportation expenses ran around $200 a month, and that's going out on the weekends. That's working every day. That's being super-duper busy. And so I did everything by subway. I mean, sometimes they would take us by a location if we were shooting up in the mountains, or on a beach somewhere, some special location. Then they'd have a location bus for us, and then the production company would drive us on the location bus. Most of the time, even for those jobs, I would take the train to the station, and then they would just have the location bus go for a little ways, like Toho Studios, where they shot Godzilla and Seven Samurais, a couple of good movies. So, anyways, after taking the subway, the traffic isn't your fault, the people that want to move here. It's the frickin' engineers. It's the politicians. They're idiots. Back when there was they were building the pyramids, and they were building Rome and other cities throughout history. I mean, if the engineers messed up as bad as they have here, you know what they did to them? Yeah. But we don't do that anymore to our engineers. But to still let them have a job and pay them is a crime. It's a complete crime. These people are complete frickin' idiots. Especially from living in Tokyo for 10 years. I mean, if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't see what complete idiots they are. So, Tokyo transportation in a nutshell. You take a train. If you want to take a train for where I'm at right now, downtown Seattle, the same amount of distance to Everett, Washington, in rush hour traffic, the same distance in Tokyo, maybe 25 kilometers or whatever, you would be able to do that in rush hour in 12 to 15 minutes. And why is that possible? Because the train runs between 80 to 90 or more kilometers an hour underground, and the doors open up for 45 seconds and they close back. So if you have a baby, luggage, whatever, you got to get it on the train, and you got to get sit or standing up or whatever, and then the train takes off again. All the financial transactions are done by a card before you're even allowed to get down to the area where you get on the train, unless you jump over the gate. But if you're honest and you pay with your card, you have an IC card, you go through a gate. Once you do that, you enter a different zone where the engineering or the design is specifically to get you on and off that train as safely as possible and as quickly as possible. So, I mean, that is the freaking main problem is, and like I said in the other videos, that I used to do highway construction here. I was involved in all aspects of highway construction. I worked as a mechanical engineer for 17 years, and then also I lived in Tokyo. And some other videos I'm going to upload, I'm going to show you direct examples how the engineers currently of what they've done have really screwed it up. So I can blame everybody for wanting to move here, move to this big, rainy, soggy paradise, liberal, soggy paradise or whatever. And the solution to the problem is they need at least 2 subways, at the very least, that run directly from, you could even have one from Olympia, put 3 in there. From Olympia, Tacoma, to Everett and Bellingham. I mean, those are like way, way overdue. And for people that drive cars, what you do, like they do in Japan, is they have special parking areas. So what you do is you park your car or your bicycle in a parking lot, and then you get on the train to your work, and then they have transportation from the station to your work, or the station is located close enough to your job, and the jobs are designed to go around the transit system. And yes, that is possible here, and I don't know why they're doing it. You know, they're coming up with these ridiculous solutions that don't work. But they need a serious subway system, and eventually they will be forced to have one. It's just a matter of time. But they should already have like 3 or 4 lines going all the way that way. Then they should have 2 lines that go under the lake, like the 2 bridges parallel them, and go over to Issaquah and Renton and stuff. And so that would clear up the problem for a while, you know. But just to recklessly keep building more buildings and real estate, like I grew up here since I was 3 years old. That I explained that in another video. I've seen houses go from 40,000 in a nice Wallingford area to like $100, like $1 million now. It's the real estate's gotten way overpriced and everything. And all the developers and the people in real estate made tons of money off of flipping these properties. And actually, I coulda, woulda, shoulda. But that's another story. And it's not that I didn't know. It's another story with a health issue. But because I wasn't planning for long-term investments because I had cancer. So you don't think about long-term investments when you have cancer, trust me. So I day traded. But anyways, and I worked. But you know, that's the problem, is they need some serious subways, and the people that should have been responsible paying for that were the ones that are benefiting from making money off of all the development. But in this liberal state, Washington is freaking liberal. In this liberal state, I thought liberal people or a liberal state weren't like the evil Republicans that are just money grubbing, big business orientated. Well, in a totally liberal state that always votes Republican, which I've voted Republican mostly, you know, I mean Democrat. I mean, in a state that dyslexic, but anyways, in a state that mostly votes Democrat, you would think that there would all the liberalness and everything would have been would have put funds and taxes into the infrastructure that needed to be done. And it involves a health issue. I mean, if you have someone that has a serious emergency, they can't get through that frickin' traffic to get to the hospital. I mean, there's lots of implications of it. I could get into the government on that one. Let's see. So where do I go next? Okay. Yeah. So I talked about that. The people aren't responsible that should be in this liberal-loving state. Okay. So, anyways, some things they have done is they've made pot legal, so that's a good step. That's great. I think that they need to push it a little further, and they need to legalize heroin, crack, and all those different drugs. But anyways, pot is at least legal here, and that's a good thing. What's ironic is when pot was illegal, I used to smoke it, but now that pot's legal, I can't smoke it. Well, I didn't smoke it all the time because I had to drug test for my work. And then pot stays in your system for like 2 months unless you get somebody else's urine. And I don't want to talk about any detail on that. But anyways, so Washington's pretty liberal state. And so people from all different races are welcome to move here. All different colors and creeds and belief systems and backgrounds and all that stuff. And people are pretty accepting of each other. And the crime is reasonably safe here. Basically, the economy's good. I went through that in another video. It frickin' rains a lot. So you're going to need the pot to help you cope with the depression. Maybe that's why it was easier to legalize here, because it's like it rains all the time when they need something, And sure, coffee helps, it boosts the serotonin levels and all that stuff, but they needed that extra thing. And that's why the coffee joints did so well here. That's why, like I said, I'm not dropping names. This one corporation went to just a couple shops to being worldwide. Even in the other country I was living in, Japan. They're like all over the place. And part of that's due, they started here because the range is really, really depressing. But fortunately, I would get laid off after 5 or 6 or 8 months, and then I would just go somewhere sunny. And sometimes within that period, like if we got a vacation period, like we used to get like 2 weeks off around Christmas and stuff like that, I would just freaking head south. Yeah. And get out of it, or fly overseas, but usually the airfare was too expensive that time. So the weather sucks, and the traffic sucks now, and it's going to get worse. And the people that are responsible for paying for that form of the infrastructure that are creating the mess aren't being responsible. So it's not the average person that just wants to move here because they want to have a better life. It's the greedy people, the greedy liberals that don't that don't want to improve the infrastructure. And like I said before, I was a mechanical engineer and I've worked in highway engineering. I'll show you some specifics later on specific streets of things that they've screwed up. But anyways, that's basically it. Is they need like 4 subways. Traffic here is a mess. You can get a job. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about social interacting with people in Seattle. What's that like? And you already have a little bit of idea of what I'm like because I'm from Seattle. I was adopted here at 3 days old, planted here, which I don't know was for the better or not. I'm kind of wondering about that. But anyways, that's what happened, instead of an abortion. So I've been here. Like I said, other than my 10-year jaunt in Japan, where they have good socialized medicine that works, that's way cheaper. And that's another video.